Well, you can see, excuse me, made a few changes again. This area just seemed to be, behind the cabin seemed to be just too uninteresting. Not enough variety of color, not high enough value in places. So I've gone with cobalt blue and burnt sienna and more white to raise the value of these little trees in the foreground. Also, this group that I want to be the most important of the next tier of trees behind it, I've gone in with, I've been using ultramarine blue and yellow ochre and white just to make them a little more prominent. So we have less of a wall and more of a clump. And then this really looks more like you're sort of going into the background here with this bit of a deep hole. I'm happy with that. And the cabin I've played with a little bit, as you can see as well. Highlighting a little more strongly some spots. Then jumped into the foreground. And I've been using yellow ochre and raw umber mostly, and white. So far I've been trying to keep it fairly soft. I don't want to come too strong as I move to the foreground. I also did not want a rectangle of just yellow and brown. This painting, if it could stand anything, I feel is a little bit more color. And I do have some hints of okay, it's not purple, but it leans in the direction of purple on the cabin. It's really sort of reddish brown, with the odd stroke, believe it or not, of a little bit of ultramarine blue in there. So I thought that's closely enough related to a purple. So let's put a little bit of purple in the foreground, You could say to yourself, well, in a painting like this, there isn't really too much direct sunlight. There's a lot of ambient light, but it's spotty. Now, I don't want to see these hillocks, that parts of the year are very swampy and wet in the valleys, in the grooves. But for parts of the year are completely dry as well. This grassland sort of thing, marshy grassland. Rather than worrying about where every bit of light catches every little bit of hill, and I am suggesting that the light comes mostly from the left and above, heading down in this direction. Rather than worrying too much about getting that accurate, we have to remember that there's often part of the scene exists of ingredients that are constituents of the scene that are off to the left, off to the right, behind us, and they influence the scene without being in the scene. Hopefully a viewer will have enough imagination to understand that. So as an artist, it's important not to fixate on those things. You'll end up hanging yourself if you worry too much about the small things. Rather than fixate on the physical realities of how light touches everything, if you do that, you will asphyxiate yourself on concerning yourself with that. So rather than doing that, I like to look at this as, okay, what's good for the composition now? Okay, more color. So we've introduced a bit of purple. My foreground is organized. We know this is a swale. We know this is a swale. It's got some dead matter in the bottom of it. And we're catching light in a few areas. And I'm going to go a little bit darker as we move into the shadowed areas, but I'm not going to get too worried. I'm not going to try to make it too accurate. I'm just worrying about the shapes. That's about it. Anyway, so I'm just going to fuss with that stuff. Really just going to be working from here down to finish it up. And I'll lay a few highlights of fairly, almost straight yellow ochre in the odd spot with a bit of white. It's coming. Very happy that I decided to put a little bit of purple in the foreground. Next time you see it, this stuff in the front will be done. Painting will be finished, and we'll move on to the next canvas. Oh yes, I guess I have to do something about these two openings. It won't be much. It won't be much. I might put a door on it, or half a door, or a partly open door, but then I start to worry about smaller details again. And there's something I like about a doorway as opposed to a door. Even if nothing is explained in here. Might be just a hint of a light, might be just a slight variation of value. That's all. See you soon.